Thank you. Welcome to Cybersecurity Insights Live. Today we're going to talk a little bit about accelerated response with Stealthwatch. My name is Matthew Robertson. I'm a technical marketing and engineer specializing in security analytics. So, any indicator of compromise is going to trigger a response process. And at its top level, our response process has to answer two questions. One, what did this IOC mean to my business? What is my past exposure? And number two, what is my ongoing exposure? Have I done everything to control and monitor my ongoing exposure to this threat? And the reason for that is two top-level objectives, because those are the only thing the board cares about. What does it mean to the business, and what does it mean to the business going forward? How has the business been exposed, and what have we done to protect ourselves? So, to do an example of how to do an accelerated response with Stealthwatch, I'm going to walk through an example. So I'm going to give you a free IOC, this one. And this is a new Zeus command and control server just discovered in the world, 128.107.78.8. It's mine. It's my own command and control server. I have set it up, and I've infected a host with it. So our first step, now that I have given you a new command and control server out in the internet, 128.107.78.8, our first step is to search for it. Have we seen this host before? Has our organization been exposed to this IOC, to this command and control server? We do a quick search. The results come back. Yes, it has been seen. It is recently seen inside of our organization. We know that we have when it was first entered and when it was last seen inside of our organization. So yes, it is now a threat to our organization. So what is our exposure to it? We click on that host, we drill down and we take a look at it. We see that it is in fact communicating inside of our organization. So we have had hosts in our organization, and somebody in the employee's desktop host group, as well as in the main campus VPN host group, is communicating with this new command and control server. So our next step is to classify it. Remember, I started by giving you this command and control server, 128.107.78.8, and we're going to classify it. We're going to put it into a host group so that we can begin to monitor our ongoing exposure. So we put it into the group Matt Zeus server. It is a known command and control server in the internet at this point in time, so we put it into this group. Now as we continue, at this point we know that we have been exposed and we're beginning the steps to accelerate a response to control our ongoing exposure. We need to understand the extent that our organization has been exposed. So we're going to search for all of the infected hosts. So we know that this host has been seen in the last 12 hours in our organization. So we're going to do a quick flow search. Says, show me all of the flows that have communicated to 128.107.78.8 in the last 12 hours. Now we're going to target this against a host group that we know is infected. We know that a host in the employee's host group have communicated. And so we're doing this to help target our query or target our response in a very quick and short manner. So we're going to do a quick query. It's going to come back with a handful of flows. And now what we see is the infected hosts. And so what we see in this organization, or inside of this, we see that there is in fact 128.107.78.8, which is what we searched on, and there are two flow records that have returned, 10.100.10.101. So we know that this host in the main campus VPN and the employee's host group is infected. And what we can also notice is the process information on this flow. taskhost.exe, this bottom flow record at there, Zeus is known to run as taskhost.exe, so we can actually confirm at this point that this is an infected host. The other thing that we can also extrapolate here is that because we've browsed this command and control server, there was the malware download, which was the firefox.exe flow, and then the call home as taskhost.exe, which is what Zeus is known to run as. So at this point, we're going to click onto that infected host, 10.100.10.101, and we're going to explore what our exposure is on this infected host. And what we can see in this set of host groups, so we see in this box, traffic by peer host group over the last 12 hours, that 10.100.10.101 has been actually quite active inside of our environment. And some of this is very concerning. We see that 10.100.10.101, which is currently logged in user is employee 1, but it's also communicated to confidential servers and PCI servers. So we actually can conclude that at this point in time, we have had a very significant exposure given that this infection, Zeus, is known to steal credentials. We can conclude that the employee 1 user credentials are likely compromised, and we can likely also conclude that there is exposure to the confidential servers and PCI servers, and that we have been exposed, and we have a deeper investigation and response is warranted. But what we can do at this moment in time is immediately shut down this threat. We know that this host, 10.100.10.101, is infected currently with Zeus and is communicating inside of the environment. So we're going to click quarantine, immediately instruct the identity services engine to issue a change of authorization and enforce a new authorization policy for this host. And that this host now has limited access inside of our environment based on the quarantine policy that we have implemented on the identity services engine. So as our 7th step, we're going to continue and expand our investigation. We know that this one host was active in the last 12 hours communicating to 128.107.78.8, which was our known command and control server. And remember, I gave you that command and control server. Most Zeus servers, or most Zeus botnet infections, tend to use more than just one command and control server. So what we want to do is identify other command and control servers. So we took that hash value from the flow record that we previously saw. So when we searched for all flows involving 128.107.78.8, there was a file hash that was involved there. The file that was doing that communication, we've copied that SHA, and we've done a flow searching on that file hash, and it comes back and we see another command and control server. The second command and control server, 173.194.203.105. So now that we have confirmed that there is another command and control server, we can actually classify that and add that to our classification for monitoring our ongoing exposure. Now, at this point, we know the different command and control servers. We know some amount of exposure in our organization. We want to continue on our investigation and monitor our ongoing exposure. So that classification that I did earlier, where I put 128.107.78.8 into a host group called Matt Zeus server, enables this step, which is being able to create a custom security event that's going to trigger an alarm anytime a host in my environment communicates to this new command and control server, or to the command and control server group, Matt Zeus server. So we have saved that, we've created that rule, and as soon as we begin to continue our monitoring, we're going to get an alarm whenever this occurs. And in fact, since the beginning of this investigation, when I created this, we've actually had an alarm occur, which is a host in the environment, probably 10.100.10.101, communicating to that command and control server. But we can continue to continue our investigation ongoing. So in this investigation, I started with an indicator of compromise, which I gave you. We quickly understood our past exposure, which is we did have a host infected with Zeus, the new command and control server that was discovered, or the new campaign, if you would. We've identified that we likely had an employee with compromised credential and potentially had exposure to our PCI environment, to our confidential servers. We've executed rapid threat containment, so the infected host now has limited exposure to the environment, and we're actively monitoring any ongoing exposure to that command and control server. All right, so for our final step today, our call to action, which is to learn more about Cisco Stealthwatch at www.cisco.com/go/stealthwatch. And thank you.